person too. I lived in America for 7 years. I lived down in the United States. Guess what we finally just got in Canada? Stuffed cheesy bread. They've been had this in the U.S. because I done seen it down there. Oh, but we got it up in Canada now. Stuffed cheesy bread. We still don't have the Domino's sub sandwiches because in the U.S. they got sub sandwiches over at Domino's, minus the Jimmy John's. StacksAMilli, he is Mr. Domino's Pizza when it comes to the mukbangs, but also when it comes to kind of like the brand. He's almost like a Jared Fogle, minus the Jared Fogle. If you don't know, Jared Fogle, I was a victim of that Jared Fogle. He used to live in New York City, and back then I was studying, in middle school and all that. And I was on Windows Live Messenger when I was at home, and that's when I was a victim of that Jared Fogle. He's in prison now. Yeah, that was my start in America. There was Jared Fogle. I was a kid in middle school, and then there was this guy that called me on Windows Live Messenger who looked a lot like, hey, isn't that Jared Fogle? And isn't he exposing himself to me? And that was Jared Fogle. And I remember how I thought of Jared. Fogle. I remember he was like a very famous guy, and I always looked up to him because he had money. Well, he was eating Subway, and Subway was a lot of money to me. So I seen him as a very successful guy. He ended up being related to Russell, I think, too, Juma, who happens to be a little bit weird too. But Russell, he's still currently free and everything, but he's a little bit of a weird guy. But not as weird as Jared Fogle ended up being. And Russell would laugh and say, yeah, Jared, it ended up being a little bit weird. But he did a lot for America, that Jared. And I guess I'm like a Jared for the Dominoes, minus the crime the crimes that were committed. And the funny thing is that Jared was I was one of Jared's victims, unbeknownst, and I didn't know until I realized when they had captured him, and that was Jared Fogle from the Subway and all that the pieces had started to come together that, oh, that guy from the Windows Live Messenger, that was Mr. Fogle. But it ended up ironing itself out with me because, he happened to be a relation sort of or whatever. And then I met some of his other family or whatever and all that. And then I ended up being successful myself. I would have never it all just worked out for me in America and all that. I was all the way out there, so you can't blame Fogle with me, nor did I ever testify on Fogle. But no, but I do testify to the fact that I was a victim of Fogle when I was 12 but he was also, I will testify, he wasn't the worst guy. He did teach me a lot about money or whatever, and that'd be a funny joke to Fogle. But it also gave me a good lesson when it comes to the law and everything. And that God is always there watching. And Fogle didn't get away with that, especially not down the U.S. But down the U.S., they have these sandwiches, and I'm getting pretty hungry over them. Over at Domino's, we don't have them here in Canada. The chicken habaneros, the other ones. Well, there isn't much need. We got a lot of different sub places, but you know what we did need? We did need this stuffed cheesy bread, and they got a variety of them over at Domino's, and I've took it upon myself under the legalities of free speech and the legalities of I own the computer. I can show what's on my computer. That's public domain. Anything posted publicly or whatever is public. Anybody with a computer at any time can look at it, save it, share it, whatever. If it's been publicly put up or whatever, and it hasn't been subpoenaed down or whatever. Domino's.ca. We got it in Canada, and that's where I happen to live. So I'm all into the CA now. But boy, are these stuffed cheesy breads something spectacular. I had the feta cheese with the spinach. That one's something big. And then I also had some time after, must have been, I don't know, maybe about 15 or 16 hours after, I had the stuffed cheesy bread with the jalapenos and the meat or whatever. I had that. What's the reaction? What's the final decision? I think the best one would have to be the feta cheese with the spinach. I had a brain growth. It was unbelievable. I hadn't had spinach in years. The amount of strength that it gave me. It didn't last too long, being the guy I am, but boy, did it take an effect. It's lasted all the way until now. But the spinach, I could have been like Popeye off the spinach. I mean, he's really starting to get the protein thing. It had a lot of protein on it with it. As you may know, I had a lot of weight problems, and yeah, the protein does a lot. And the stuffed cheesy bread, as long as you can put that cheesy bread to work or whatever. He was always a let her go or whatever, but people are ready to go to work, Tom. They're saying people are been ready. They're going to work. They've been at work. Here's one to get you to go to work and keep you going back and keep growing and all that. It's the stuffed cheesy bread with the spinach and the feta cheese. I mean, it is stuffed with feta cheese and spinach.